We are back at the Next Level Show. We have a Friday episode for you guys lined up. We're going to be covering muscle soreness, possibly training with fasting in a non-fasted state versus a fasted state. Just a little bit of a multiple topic episode, a little bit of randomness at the beginning. That's kind of how we do things here. For anyone that's new, welcome. Gabe, what's wrong with your phone, man?
I don't know. I'd like to know. No. Everything. So today, when you were reaching out to me, everything was through the watch because I could not go through the phone. It just starts. You just clicking all around. I don't know what's the deal. If I try to use it for like to use an app or just use it to do anything, it doesn't let me do it. It just starts clicking all over the place, and it's just so damn frustrating and annoying. And that usually happens. It's happened to me before, where if I have close to exceeding my space of the storage, towards the tail end, then it starts lagging a bit. Maybe you'd start clicking around, or if, like, let's just say a droplet of water gets on the screen, then it registers that it's touching over here where the droplet is, but I want to go here, so it doesn't really click. So that's happened, but I cleared up a whole bunch of stuff. I reset it. I don't know. It's been like that for a bit. So this whole week has been a little kind of crazy. So that's been like that for what, 2 days now, going on 2 days. I have an appointment tomorrow to get it looked at. So hopefully they'll let me know what's the deal. Hopefully it's not a new phone solution kind of thing, even though I'm sure they would push me to that.
What do you have right now?
I want to say that's the X. So it's
so
two phones ago.
Okay.
So that's what I have. So we'll see what they tell me with that. And before that, I was basically incapacitated for about a day and a half.
Why is that?
So remember I was saying that I was in the process of getting magnetized, the 5G upgrade. Yeah. So I got my second one on Monday. Dude, that shit put me on my ass on Tuesday, all for one symptom, which was a fever. And I got like the high end of a mid-grade fever. It was like allegedly around 102.2. Mm-hmm. Dude, I was achy as shit. My left hip was just bugging me. It kind of gave me a glimpse of like, is this what people with chronic pain deal with? Because this is the fucking worst. And it was just terrible. I can't do it. And then it made me think, like, when the hell was the last time I was either sick or a fever or just something? And it was about, over a year ago. I want to say January of last year. I felt a little funky for about a day, but I ain't built for that. I'm not built for that kind of, for being sick, for chronic pain, for any of that shit. So no, thank you. Pass.
Sounds awful.
It was the worst. Then I couldn't get comfortable. I took maybe a nap for about an hour or two, and I just could not get comfortable. I was hot, I had chills. It was just fucking terrible. Terrible. With a capital F. That's how my week's been.
I feel you on that. But when I say that, I really don't, because
I don't want you to. I'd rather you not. I'd rather it totally bypasses you, goes maybe 5 feet and just goes over your head and just completely misses you.
Sitting down, right?
Okay.
Got jokes today. No. No, so
how's your week been?
It's been busy, man. It's like I can't believe we're to the end of the week already.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my schedule hasn't been the busiest it's ever been. I think it's because I've been having kind of shit sleep this week. So I've been taking naps in the day, and that makes my days fly more than when I don't. Usually I have longer days. I wake up early, so I feel like the day just lasts a good amount. But overall, just kind of balancing sleep, but you're just still training hard, still feeling, getting to that point where I'm during the day, I creep into like the mid 170s right now, which is heavy for me because I haven't passed 170 like in a while now. I haven't really tried to push past. When I wake up first thing in the morning, completely depleted, I'm about like 168 point, almost 169 flat.
Nice.
So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong. My body's adapted for sure. This is why I think it'd be a good time to talk about this topic that we have later on in the episode. For those that don't know, we haven't been doing the show notes the last couple episodes. Our guy that does it, he hasn't been available the last week or so. Just been really
Something
slammed
like
with
that.
work. He's at the new gym they just opened. So this guy's been nonstop, and
They look
we're
like
not.
they've been doing really well, like a great turnout. It looks like a great facility,
My
brand
brother
new.
went. He got me like
Oh,
a
there.
guest pass, so I might go visit Mike
You
soon.
should. You should. You should. It'll be cool.
I'll send you like the email and just tag you, so
There you
you
go.
like get the guest pass and just come all the way here.
Why the hell
Um,
not?
we'll just record at the gym so Mike can actually do the show notes.
We
Damn it, Mike.
should.
So for the people that don't know, the last two episodes I've probably been putting the show notes will be up soon. It's because we do the uploading now, the process of YouTube, as well as all the platforms that this gets distributed to. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment period.
Mhm.
So we're figuring out the middle ground here. So it's been good. I'm trying to think of what else. My sleep's also been a little bit bad because I've been allowing myself to break my rule of not being on electronics past a certain time. I've been watching The Walking Dead, which I'm very late to this show. It's basically almost done, but I was bored dog sitting a couple weeks ago, and this is when I got into it. For people that are way ahead, or just stopped caring about it or never watched it, I'm at the point now where the infamous, Negan is in the show. And if you do, have you watched The Walking Dead, Gabe?
Negative,
Okay,
but I know of the
so
character,
yeah, so
the baseball
I
bat.
yeah, baseball bat guy, and I've seen him in other shows, so I liked him in other shows. He's always like a good guy, but
Oh
then
yeah,
this
yeah.
one he's bad in this one, so it's interesting to see him play this role. This guy comes in and the gun, like, it's instant freaking, like, he makes a mark in the show. And I didn't know that this show is originally a graphic novel,
Yep.
so it has a specific storyline. They start to kind of venture away from the storyline. I think to the point that they're at right now, currently, they're just dragged out. So I may stop eventually once a particular character leaves the show, just because it does. What I'm finding is that it's already 8 seasons in that I'm watching, and there's no like definitive point as to how do you like stop, or where does this start, or where does this end, as far as when it comes to the whole like Walker situation, the zombie situation, right? So
So it
I
ends when
can
they all die.
I don't know, like
I would. What did you think that would happen? Like the
so
survivors would just eventually just die?
So what I think is happening right now is that there's a lot of new people that are the new cast, and there's not that many original, maybe one or two out of like the core group that kind of got taken all the way through to 7, 8 ish. I'm trying to see where that starts to kind of more people start to fall off. First couple seasons, phenomenal, great writing, great character development. It's not bad right now, but you're starting to see why people are starting to kind of fall off. It's just, I get it. When you drag a show out too long, sometimes even though they're getting good ratings, this is why a show will continue to produce. But sometimes you just gotta like maybe end that one and make another one, a new show, new cast, and build that. I feel like
Yeah.
it's gonna be like Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones was phenomenal for the actual. They were following the books, they were following the sequence, the character development, phenomenal writing. Then it just like, okay, we got to finish this. We dragged it out. The books are not complete yet. Let me just finish this and kind of give us our take. And it just kind of, just everyone that has followed or has heard of it knows exactly that just went downhill from 1 minute to another. But that's kind of where I'm at with that. That's kind of why I've
Wait,
been staying up
you're
late.
up on season 8. You're up to
Correct.
season 8. Out of,
Mhm.
do you know how many there are currently available?
10 on Netflix, and then 11 should be the 11th season, I think, is starting very soon.
Okay.
But like I said, I probably won't continue on after a certain point, just because I feel it's getting there to the point that I'm like, okay, I just want to see where this particular bad character gets to.
Mm-hmm.
I see why he got so much notoriety, because he was one of the worst people in the show. Like, to start, he eventually, I think, turns a new leaf, but still has that cynical part of him that people like and enjoy his role. It's interesting. The writing for this character was very unique.
Yeah. No, I never got into that. I knew of the series because of the graphic novel. But once it gets started, it's something that I would, you on paper, it seems like something that I would enjoy and I would look into it. because I do like that genre. I think, like I mentioned to you, I want to say my favorite of like a zombie is probably the 28 Days trilogy. I really enjoy that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else, but I do like the zombie, or World War Z. That was a really good one. I like that one a lot.
Great movie.
Yeah, but I just never got into it. We're really not much into like shows and stuff like that. We tried to watch to get into Manifest. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
We tried to get into it, and it was just like, yeah, no thanks. We tapped out. What else? I think the closest is like Law and Order. We really like that one. But each episode is kind of like its own like little thing. Sure, there might be themes that happening with the characters that might span like a whole season, but it's really its own. Each one is its own entity, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
They had one series with Law and Order towards the end that just came out. I want to say this year or last year, and it was like a full drawn out story. And that one was kind of like I felt like we kind of just got through it just for the sake of getting through it. Like it was all right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're not much for shows. What have we been keeping up with? In the Marvel one, the What If series, I think we're enjoying that again because it's each episode is its own like little thing. There's nothing that connecting all the two. Plus, it's only like 30 minutes, so it's not that much of a time investment every week. My daughter likes that, so she's kind of keeps me on track to stay up to date with that. Hard Knocks, I've been watching that. Football, American football, the best kind of football. I've been watching that mainly because this year they're focusing on the Cowboys, so nice to see that. That's basically it. I haven't seen shit or anything else. Absolutely nothing. Anything else that's going on, it's either like background noise or just puts it on just to put it on.
I'm a big show person. I've watched a great variety of shows. I enjoy it. I enjoy it probably more than movies at this point, just because I like the story developments.
I will say, so one show that we did enjoy and we are waiting to get back to it is You. You've seen that one, right? On Netflix?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's coming back, season 3, October 15th.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while since that one was out.
It was supposed to come back, but I guess, everything was pushed way the fuck back. One last thing that I was catching up on during this week was, did you get a chance to check out the Kanye's album?
I only heard like one or two songs.
Let me guess which one? The one with your boy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it got sent to me. I didn't actually like even pay attention to his album, and that song I was like whatever about, honestly.
Oh, it's it's fine. I like that. So I personally like the album. I think it's cool. It's long as shit. 27 tracks. Way too fucking. Yeah, exactly. Well, but then again, the last, I want to say 4 are like maybe extended cuts of prior ones, or like, let's just say that there's this one, Jesus Lord, and he has the Locks on it rapping, but on the track earlier, they're not there. So, and supposedly this is something that happened where he had other people feature on some songs, but then their part gets cut out. So that happened with, I want to say, Chris Brown, that he has a song where he sings and raps, but he took out his rap. I want to say, who else? I don't know, a couple other people. Anyways, point is, a lot of people kind of like don't like it so much. And whenever I see like a lot of people don't like one thing, I always kind of look at it weird. I'm like, okay, do you guys really not like it, or are you just following someone else that says that they don't like it? Similar to like the whole Black Widow movie thing. Remember how everyone didn't like it, and it was off of before it even came out, or the day that it came out. I'm like, did all y'all really go see it? Doubt. So, but me personally, I liked it. I think there's about 6 or 7 songs which I listen to. It's not an album that I would put on like maybe like one track I'd add to like a gym playlist. But outside of that, there's no way that I would put any of those on. It's more like, just chilling. Like if I'm gonna if I have a long ass drive, I'll put it on. But it's good. I would suggest everyone check it out, make their own opinions. I think it's cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I have to actually take the time to like listen to them. I just haven't, been a really big Kanye fan. The last couple albums he's done, it's been like so whatever to me that he's not even a top person I would even listen to
So,
at the moment.
so here's my thought on that. This just came to me the other day. So he doesn't write any of his stuff. He has ghostwriters, right? So if you have ghostwriters, then it's hard to kind of replicate an old sound if you have new people writing for you. And on top of that, if he this one, just like his last album, is very like church focused, talking about God,
This
church
album
and all that
is.
kind of stuff. Yeah, this one and the prior one as well. So because of that, so one, you're changing up his writers, and then two, it's in a different direction. So it's kind of hard to replicate the same feeling as before. And the only way that he can do that is when, I mean, obviously he produces, or he mainly produces all of his beats. There is a lot of the beats that are reminiscent of older albums, or that same Kanye feel. A lot of them have that either like a church organ kind of sound or vibe, and if you hear it, you can kind of get it in the background. So because of all of this kind of like change, it's hard to replicate or to capture that same type of, I guess, magic or thing from before.
Yeah.
That's my just opinion or take on it, but who the hell knows. My favorite from him is still Late Registration, which was his second album. And then totally unrelated, on his third one, I want to say Graduation, there's one song, Flashing Lights. Anytime I hear that, I can't ever not think about Grand Theft Auto 4, because that was probably like the only station that I'd listened to when I was playing that game, and that track just always kind of kept on. So anytime I hear that, I think of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, definitely his old stuff was superior to what he's producing now, and whoever's writing for him now. And I'm sorry, it's kind of whack. That's my personal take. But so should we get into the fitness topic at hand today?
See.
Let's do it. So the first thing that we wanted to cover, just because we're going to give you now the tangible takeaways, even though I think there was some tangible takeaways there. We got to keep up to date with pop culture.
Always,
what's going on.
Always.
It's just part of the next level
all encompassing.
No, but this is not an episode that we did a while back, but it also came up based on. So I've been training very consistently now. Also, this is something that someone asked me the other day as well. Should they or should they not train when it came to muscle soreness? So just to kind of do a quick breakdown of this subject, muscle soreness in general, right? So like kind of what it is for people that maybe are very familiar, maybe have a different conception when it comes to what it is, like why this is even valuable, or is it valuable or not, kind of thing. It's just a lot of confusion still, I think, around this term. So to break it down, muscle soreness inherently is that pain that you get that the day after or 2 days after your workout, or it could be something that depending on how hard it was, it's a whole week, right, on a particular region.
Oh yeah.
The most infamous, day is the leg day, right? It's always the jokes, the memes that come around. Leg day,
crawl out,
crawl out. You have a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone in the bed, just like fist bumping, like beat up with bandages, like good leg day. And but that's a very common one. But overall, just muscle soreness in the fitness culture has always been glorified, like as a kind of a badge of honor, right? That you work very hard and you get sore. Obviously, when you're very new, normally that soreness is way more intense, or it's very easy to over intensify. You don't need much to get to that very like agonizing point. If you overdo it, you could really cause some serious harm. But muscle soreness,
anything will cause it.
Yeah. So muscle soreness in general, basically, to keep it simple, is just the pain that you get after a training session due to muscle having micro tears. After resistance training, primarily, you can get this from doing cardio. You can get this from any type of activity that your body isn't used to. So anything that your body is, the signal that is foreign to the body, will typically cause some type of soreness. Like for example, if you're someone that never does like any yard work and you're out there digging holes and like on your up and down, picking up things and moving stuff all day, you'll typically feel sore, like maybe in your back, your hands, your forearms, or wherever. I mean, it's just because it's not something you commonly do. So that's in a nutshell. Not to get super scientific with it, it's just typically the signal that your body gets. It's a discomfort or pain in the muscles that you used, that maybe you overdid it. You're not used to that movement pattern, that level of resistance. There's many factors that play into it, but that's essentially what muscle soreness is. I think that the point that we want to come here is a common thing that we get from clients, from people is, should I train a sore muscle? And Gabe, what are your thoughts on, training when you're sore versus, or, not sore?
Well, first off, I wouldn't say to, that's don't chase the soreness, right? That's first and foremost. When you're new, like I said, damn near anything will kind of get you to that point, because you're just, just starting out, just new. You just think of I don't know, building up those, building yourself up to a point where you don't know where your point is actually in the beginning, right? You do like 2 sets and shit, that'd be too much. So one, starting off slow, but two, let's just say you go too far, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. Okay, what should you do when you're sore? I would still say you still would want to do as much, create as much movement as possible. And this has happened to me plenty of times, kind of like to your point. If you mow the lawn, if you do something you haven't typically done before, then you can get sore from that. And what jumps into my mind was actually, so I tried doing, I typically, one of the things that I do when I warm up is I do some step ups, right? I get a stand at the gym, I do some step ups, and I put it pretty low, and I wanted to do some one-legged, what do you call it? Jumps? What the fuck you call
Box
them?
jumps?
Box jumps. Hello, brain fart. Thank you. So I did that. And then I don't know, out of nowhere, the next day, not out of nowhere, but I was like sore, like in my inner thigh, was just so like odd place for me to get sore. But because again, doing a movement that I haven't typically done before or concentrated on, it prompted me to be sore there. So what did I do? Well, I did the adductor abduction machine to target that area, and very, very, very light. And I just did some movement, because you would want to always do some movement, get some blood flowing in there. You're not training it to kind of get sore, to build, or to do anything like that. All I want to do is just get as good amount of reps in there and just create some blood flow. So one, it would be to create as much movement as possible, as much as is comfortable for you. So if you're like, again, to your point earlier about having an intense leg day, you wouldn't want to just lay in bed and just not get up, because what happens as soon as you get up, that's probably the worst part. You get up and you're like, oh shit, my legs are just killing me. You're walking around like Bambi. But eventually, after like a minute or two, 5, maybe at most, you walk around fine. Once you stop and then get back up again, it starts all over. So just keep on moving as much as possible, and that should help you. So I would move as much as possible, very light, controlled movement, and just get as much blood flow as you can. Do you do the same thing, or do you have a different take or outlook?
So when it comes to the question, should I train a sore muscle, or what does that even look like? I always encourage, like, you can totally train a muscle that's sore. You can totally work out. Let's say you're doing a 3-day-a-week split and you train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, and you're still sore a little bit from Monday, but it's Wednesday already. It's time to train again. I still encourage you to go through your workout. I think that there's nothing really wrong with it, keeping the intensity at a decent amount. Yes. Obviously, this depends on what kind of soreness we're talking about. Do you need an extra day? Do you want to go much lighter, depending on like where your pain level's at? So this is kind of, you have to gauge it properly. But for most people, I think that it's completely safe to train with a sore muscle. Typically, after the workout, you'll feel a lot better. Just because you got some fresh blood in there, you're moving, and what Gabe said, just keeping that movement up. So it's totally okay. This is a big myth that some people still believe. I know that the information is getting out there, but I think that there's still a lot of people that doubt, should I train when I'm sore? And the answer is, you totally can. Now, if you are, if it's the day after, right? I think this is a little bit different. So if it's like a couple days, in between sessions, typically I would say continue your program as follows. But if you're training like a day after a hard session and you are sore from that, maybe go a little lighter intentionally, because you're just trying to get the muscle to move. You're not going to try to outperform the day before. That's just I think the rule of thumb there. That's a safe gauge to go. Trying to think of anything else when it comes to that, but yes, training sore, totally okay. Don't need to sit in bed all day, like Gabe said as well. You don't need to. That actually will probably hinder the muscle building process, because at the end of the day, what's happening is that we talked about this on the show, that the body is always perceiving these signals that we're sending it through our environment, through our movement patterns, through the food we eat, the amount of food we eat. So typically the signal that you get that causes the soreness is probably from a loud muscle building signal, a good hard session, a nice steady session. Boom, you wake up and you're sore. You have that elevated, signal of building muscle, repairing and getting out of that state. And so that way you can outdo the last session, like not get beat by the same level of resistance that it encountered before.
Yep.
Now, the thing to keep in mind here is that you can get these little muscle building signals through smaller, lighter sessions. It's not going to be as loud or as intense as the loud session that the really loud signal that you send it to your hard session, but you want to send it in smaller signals throughout the day, throughout the week. That's just going to continue to, let the body know, hey, we're sore, we're beat up, but we still got to keep moving. We still got to keep getting better. And it's not going to override your body's ability to recover. Now, soreness, not a bad thing, yes, but it's not always a good thing. Correct. So the biggest misconception here is that you have to chase soreness. And I think Gabe made a point at the very beginning saying like, it's not what your goal should be to be necessarily sore. And this is like a big thing that I like to discuss with a lot of my clients when we're training, is that the point here is not to beat you up. The point is not to just make you feel pain for the sake of feeling pain. If you feel sore because of the training, you're just deconditioned, or it's something new, or making we added a little bit of weight here and there. Cool. That's normal. That's just part of the game. But the goal is not that doesn't hinder your performance from day-to-day activity, that it's so painful that every time you step into the gym, it's so painful to touch, because their soreness doesn't necessarily mean that you're making progress. At this case, in some instances, it can mean that you overdid it. You're maybe not getting enough rest to recover from these workouts. You're not eating enough to fuel these workouts. And in some cases, if you're too sore all the time and you're so beat up, in this case, it can lead to potential injuries. It can actually take you back a couple notches within your training level. And a good indicator here for you to follow, listener, is to just know that if you're training, you're not getting stronger over time, you're not moving more weight, you're not making more reps, you're just not progressing in any part of your workouts, then and you're sore and you're in pain all the time, then maybe you need to switch it up a little bit, because that has to be main focus. Soreness is is on the top of priority list. It's not the top even 3, I would say. I would say it's probably more in the top 5 area, and it's more towards that bottom half of that, right? So it's more towards 4 and 5. I would probably think at the top of my head, because you're thinking about progression, right? You want progress. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing you want to see. That's progress with, your strength. You want to see strength. You want to see improvements in your body composition. So you're already at 3, right? So, and then you want to see improvement in your performance. You want to see that you're just performing better, whether you're an athlete or you're just an average gym goer. And then I would say, there you go. As muscle soreness can be a good thing to see, like, hey, are we staying too comfortable? Because once these other top things stop moving, then you want to increase the intensity of your workout, which will cause soreness. For most people, just adding an extra set or adding an extra exercise or adding a little bit more time, those things may potentially get you sore for a bit of time, but then those other top 4 things should continuously now to start moving forward. So those are my things when it comes to soreness.
Yeah. And then, so to your point of intensity, we have to monitor it based on where you're at currently, because I always, what I tell my clients is like a treat intensity, kind of like bell curve, where you will get some positive results, but eventually if you overdo the intensity, now you'll start getting negative results, where everything will actually start going down. All the to your first 4 points as to how to gauge your training, how it's going. You'll start seeing them either start to slow down, stagnate, or even decline, because you're just pushing it a bit too much. So soreness, again, like we said, don't chase it. But you should feel it, right? Like, so if I train chest, today or yesterday, if I go like this, okay, if I touch it, okay, it feels like, I trained it. I'm
mild
okay though.
Soreness is good.
Exactly.
Mild soreness is a good signal.
But not to the point where, and this happened to me before, where, I trained chest a bit too much, And then I go to put on my deodorant, and I felt like my chest was about to just pop off of my bone because it was just cramping that hard from just
Mm-hmm.
going over and putting on deodorant. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
bit too much. That's way too much. So what you would want to do is just modify. Okay, if 5 sets of whatever got me the here, then maybe next time let me just do 4 sets or 3 sets, and then play around with it and see what's a good comfort level for you. Something else that might kind of get you here to feel a little bit more sore than normal would be if you transition from one phase to another, right? So if you have more of a focus more on the strength phase for like, let's just say 4 weeks or so, 5 weeks, 3 to 5 weeks, and then you go over to, and then you're in the rep range of like, let's just say, I don't know, 2 to 6, but then you transition to rep ranges of like 8 to 12. Okay, that shift of the way that you train now, it might cause you to feel a little bit, the first week or couple days, but again, because you switch that, you just would want to again, going back to the intensity thing, modify the intensity and making sure that it's appropriate for you and just not too much. That first week of a phase, I always like to kind of like, okay, well, just playing around with gauging where we're at. Okay, this is where I want to be at. This is a perfect place for me. Then that's where I'm going to go. Just like a Goldilocks kind of thing. You don't want to go too much. You don't want to go too little. Just right.
I love it. No, it's a good point to like kind of like sum up the whole thing with the soreness, guys. It is going to completely come down to your level, where you're at, how you're
Mm-hmm.
recovering, where you're sleeping. Because let's say you get to a pretty high level of training and you have been super consistent, but then life takes a turn where your sleep is going down. You have to sacrifice some sleep for a time being. Maybe you're not getting in the meals that you're getting normally, your calories, etc. And then maybe you start to feel beat down, worn down, and really sore from the workouts that you're doing, and you're no longer able to progress. These are times that this is going to vary all the time within your lifting career. I mean, just to put that out there for the listeners, just because you hit a level doesn't mean that you can necessarily stay there or that you need to. You can sometimes get away with a lot less. I think that the another rule of thumb that I want to just leave the listeners with when it comes to how to know if I'm training at a good intensity. And I think that we've talked about like hitting failure in workouts is important
Yep.
from many points when it comes to the mental piece of training, when it also comes to see really what you can do physically, because a lot of times people have they train way too soft all the time, are not seeing progress, because you need to kind of be floating with that line back and forth, teetering. So a good rule of thumb, we always use the RPE, rate of perceived exertion. So you want to be able to gauge on a scale of 1 to 10 when you're training. Most exercises you want to be within the 7 to a 9. I would say would be the good range to be, and I would even say for most exercises, I would say 8 and 9 for the most part, because you want to always think that you have about 1 or 2 reps in the tank, but real 1 to 2 reps in the tank, not you think you have 2 or 1 in the tank, but you generally have 5. I think that's very
Yeah.
common with clients that I just allow them. Sometimes I use the RPE a lot of times, but when it comes to certain things, I let them just write it out. And it's crazy
Mm-hmm.
how many more reps they get. So I'm just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like, so we can definitely bump it up next time, and we make a note in their notebook if we're recording their workouts. I just kind of make that mental note, or I just make a point that way when I revisit that workout, I know that we can bump up their weight, and that's how you continuously can see progress. The goal is maybe you get a little soreness, maybe not at all. It depends. It just depends on you, right? And
Yep.
you want to continue to see progress, because soreness is cool. It makes you feel like, yeah, I got like a good workout, man. That was, oof, I haven't done that in a while, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not cool if you're not making progress. The most important
No.
thing when you're training is that you're making progress in whatever direction. In most cases, it's going to be cosmetically. And for some of you, it's going to be performance. So it's just you have to, if you're not doing that, if you're not making progress in any direction, then there's no
What's the
point
point?
to continue
Why?
to continuously just to blast yourself.
Yeah. Why?
Maybe if you're having a really bad time and you just do it for your mental sanity,
Yeah.
sure. But for 80 to 90% of the time, you're going to want to be seeing some type of progress.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Oh, and then maybe to put a pin on this and finish this topic, a good tool to use when you're sore would be you say, go back and continue training and create some type of movement, but using bands. I think bands are really good for this. A light to moderate band would be good to either perform, like, let's just say if you're sore in your biceps, to just do some bicep curls with a band. It's not as damaging, or it's not as impactful or intense as either regular weights or body weight movements. So using bands would be a good tool to use for a situation like this where you're overly sore, or you just want to mitigate the soreness.
Absolutely. Other tools, just stretch, move around, simple walk. Also, foam rolling and any type of massage guns or any type of tools that you may have can be options to help with, soreness. That way you can get back in as soon as possible. But overall, the bottom line here is just move, stay active. And typically that does a really good job. Obviously, make sure your nutrition and hydration is on point. Typically, these things are going to be normal. They will kind of follow a nice flow. You'll be in and out of your workouts, making gains, making progress over the course of time. So the other thing that I wanted to discuss real quick with the listeners is the notion of fasted training versus non-fasted training, like pet training.
Yep.
And I think this is important because, like, I don't know, like, this never was a thing, right? Before, no. It was cool to be like an intermittent fast, or just like, you wouldn't tell people, you just did it. And it was just cool because it was not widely practiced, or it wasn't like known to the general public as much. Even though, we got to be honest, a lot of people fast, they just skip meals and they have a very like unbalanced way of eating, right? But intentionally having these fasts, there's been a lot of times where I get clients, and they're weight loss clients for the most part, and they are telling me, oh, I do intermittent fasting, I've lost X amount of weight to kick off. And I'm like, cool, that's awesome. And if it's been multiple clients that have come to me in the last like 2 to 3 years with this, that they're already on this mindset that they're following this protocol or this eating window, type of lifestyle, which is fine. And I don't tell them to stop the fasting. If it's something that they're naturally doing, cool, we'll work with what they got. But I want to say that for, training fasted and living in that like intermittent fasting lifestyle with non-fasted, I think that the biggest thing, the problem that I have with it is that we know how hard it is for most people to hit nutrition targets.
Yes.
And if they're not hitting nutrition targets, then their physical progress starts to kind of stall out or kind of start to become very stagnant. And it also could potentially affect their training. Now, can you train fasted? Simple answer is yes. Is it better than training fed? Not necessarily. In some cases,
depends.
It can be better for some, but it also could be detrimental to others.
Correct.
And it's going to depend on you. We talked about the things that you need to be looking at. Am I making progress in the gym? Am I getting stronger? Am I getting better at my performance? Is my body shifting, where I want it to be? Am I losing fat? Am I building the muscle that I want? Whatever. So you have to look at those things when it comes to it. Some people argue, it's a badge of honor. I train fasted, man. I just fasted all the time. I just don't eat. I'm like, okay. How do you feel? Like, dude, it's just so focused. I'm just focused all the time. Probably because they're hungry and it's like their survival instinct is kicking in, right? They're hyper focused aware. They're just trying to get some food.
Probably.
But when it comes to the fasted guys, for most people, I recommend not to. I'll be honest. A lot of my clients, eventually they start struggling because once we move into the protein portion of what we're helping with nutrition and guiding them, once they have to start hitting a certain protein target, and normally for most people, it's right over 100 for like my women that are like a certain height and size. Typically, I'm not going to make them have like 200 grams of protein. Probably like more of 100, 120 grams is more than enough protein. It's hard to hit that target, right?
Yeah.
So if they're fasting, you're taking away too much time. So you have to look at it this way. Fasting is not going to get you there faster. I'm sorry. Like I'm going to break the news here. It doesn't get you there faster or slower. It's a good option to create maybe some structure around your eating. Sure. But don't marry fasting or training fasted because you think that it's going to get you a specific result. It's going to be more optimal for fat loss. It's going to give you all these. It's very overrated right now based on a lot of the hype that's around it. There's a lot of companies that promote it. There's a lot of influencers that their whole brand revolves around fasting. And the bottom line is that it's cool, sure, but for most of the people listening right now that maybe are missing protein targets more often than not, you definitely don't want to restrict your times of eating any more so. Have some structure. Maybe you don't have breakfast right when you wake up, sure, but you do have a meal within the first couple hours of being awake. Don't wait that it has to be what is it like? Typically you sleep 8 hours and you want to be up for like 6 hours before you eat a meal. It's like at 5:58, you're like, I got 2 more minutes before I can eat this food. So
Yeah,
it's silly. So I think that to enhance your overall you know your journey in the gym, your journey with your fitness and healthy lifestyle, don't practice fasting just yet. I would use fasting as a very sporadic tool for maybe mental discipline, maybe when you're traveling a lot and you don't have options to these healthy foods.
Yep.
You're there, we can have good practices, right? And also if you're someone that does it for maybe some religious purposes, spiritual reasons, that's the kind of the main reason. It's been used to help abstain from certain things, whether it's stuff that you care about, food, and obviously stuff that you're trying to break these addictions or chains with. It can help instill some mental discipline, but people turn it into a fat loss thing, and that's where I think more people are struggling, because if the only thing was not eating, I mean, that's been around for a long time since we've evolved as human beings. We fasted a lot because we didn't have food readily available like we do now. But now we have the option to hit our nutrition targets. I'd rather you focus on that. If you start noticing that you're lazy in the gym, eat a little bit of food, go work out and see how you feel. And typically you'll notice great improvements.
Bottom line, if you can't hit your nutrition goals, fasting it should not become an option for you. If you don't like it, to your point, if you don't want to eat as soon as you get up, then fine, that's okay. Maybe eat like an hour or two afterwards, but still have something in the morning. Now, if you are hitting your nutrition goals and you want to try fasting, then fine. If you want to try training while fasted, okay, fine. If you try training while fasting, you're like, I don't feel so great. I feel like I'm kind of like, just low on energy, and it just doesn't feel as good of a workout as I typically can get. Then don't. So I tried this before and I was pretty surprised as to how fine I was. So I'm typically pretty good with a fasted training. I can go pretty intense actually with a fasted training, and I'm fine. I was kind of like shocked the first time. The first time I tried that, actually, I was towards the end. I was just like, I got to eat something, right? I mean, like if not, I might pass out or lose it, or I don't know, something might happen. So I need to have something. And once I got it in my head, I'm like, no, you don't need to. You're fine. If you feel okay, then you're okay. And I was fine. So I can kind of like push it pretty hard as far as to how much I train while fasted, and I'll be okay. What I used to do before is I typically don't have my first meal till around about 9 or so, getting up at about 6. So that's typically how what I do. And then on the weekends, at least one day on the weekend, I kind of push it a little bit further to like maybe like around noon or so the first time that I eat, mainly because on the weekends we kind of like either travel or drive or something, and maybe our choices aren't maybe as best as if we would eat at home, which would more than likely mean that each meal would be a little more calorie dense. So I kind of like to just push it out for that sake. So that's kind of like how I treat it. And that would be my recommendations. If you want to do anything fasted for weight loss, first off, negative, cross that off your list. That's not the reason why you should do it. If you want to do it more for like, let's just say focus, clarity, if you want to do it for just something to try to see how you would feel, then fine. But I would always not recommend or tell people to stay away from fasting anything if their main goal or focus is weight loss. Now, can weight loss be one of a benefit of doing that? Yeah, it might be, a tail end kind of like benefit or that you can get from it, but it's not something that you should have the intention to chase when you're doing when you choose to fast.
It can help you stay within a calorie range, and that's fine.
Yep.
The calories is only one process of this whole thing when it comes to manipulating weight. But then we know when it comes to macronutrients, things begin to change. This is when you have to observe. Yes, I can hit a certain amount of calories, but then when you start breaking down your macronutrients, your proteins, fats, and your carbs, if you can still hit it within that time range and you can comfortably do it consistently over and over and over again, if you can't, then lessen the fasting window and kind of ease your way out of this mindset. If you're someone that's kind of stuck, so I know some people are very like hardwired. They've been doing it. They got a tremendous amount of results from it. So I know it's hard to kind of talk to them in this way, but start loosening up the time that you fast would be my advice. I have, like you said, just a quick note, I've trained fasted, and there's moments that this could be totally fine. And for me, it's if I train in the morning. If I train first thing in the morning,
yep, same.
Before it's gone too many hours in the day. If I don't train first thing in the morning, I'm not gonna like do it fasted later, because then that's when I notice that my appetite starts to kick in, and it becomes a little, for me, counterproductive. So if when I was working about between 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. around that time window, I would be completely okay with fasting technically, because I ate at the night before. I have still fuel and energy that's still in the tank I can use, and then I can have a nice, I would advocate to have a nice meal right after, especially just to kind of help with the recovery process, just to kind of tie these two together when it comes to soreness, progress, and then even fasting and not fasting. The main thing here, guys, is you got to find a sweet spot where you're training nice and hard, you're pushing yourself. We talked about training versus exercise. You want to be at the point where you're at a good level for your body, your goals, but you're utilizing these signals, these indicators, that you're doing the right dose, right? You want to make sure that you're training, but you can still recover optimally from that training. If one thing is way off balance, your training is way too intense, your recovery sucks, this is where all this kind of hits the fan. And this can be a cause of maybe your eating windows are too restricted, your training volume is way too high, your sleep's gone to shit, like just because of all these other factors. Make sure that these tools are optimizing your lifestyle, maybe your training, on all this. And that should be the point, bottom line. So that's kind of where I wanted just to wrap and kind of case close this thing and move on to the next episode of Criminal Minds. No. So Gabe, do you have anything for us?
Well, just using those, I think to your earlier, those 4 points, if you're stalling, not progressing in any of those 4 points, or actually declining, then maybe go back. Are you training fasted? Is this something that you're constantly doing? Well, then maybe let's just have something a little bit beforehand. Are you maybe it's the intensity in your workouts, right? So just revisit these variables and see if maybe these factors are leading towards the lack of progress that you may be encountering. And this can happen to both beginners, intermediates, and advanced people as well. So just because you've been training for X amount of years or whatever, just don't think like, oh, I got this, I'm fine, I can't make any improvements, I'm good. No, let's just revisit this and see see what we think, see how we feel.
Yes, sir. You got it.
So, do you know why bees have sticky hair? Because they use a honeycomb.
That's a good way to end the week.
Yes.
Classics. All right, Mr. Gabriel, we did a fantastic job, covering for Mr. Mike. Hopefully he'll be with us back soon, guys. If you guys want to go bug him at next level at the Mike Nellis PT, that's his Instagram handle. Go and bombard him with DMs.
Or you know what you can do? You can go sign up for Crunch and Cape Coral and just ask for him.
Yeah, just give him like an overwhelming amount of you just want to speak to him. Like no one else is allowed to talk to you.
Correct.
You're there for him. And just bother him at work. No, we love him. We miss him. We'll get him back on track. We'll be back for our Monday Mindset episode. next time with you guys. If you guys have any questions or any feedback, anytime, leave us either a 5-star rating and review, comment. Also on a YouTube channel. For those that don't know, we have a YouTube channel at the Next Level Show. Just type it in the search. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell notification. That way you don't miss episodes. If you like more visual stuff, share this with someone that needs it. Check us out on the Instagram at the Next Level Show. My personal page is at John Alva Fitness. Gabe, he's at Prime and Glory. And like I said, Mr. Mike is at Mike Nellis PT. And until the next one.